the system makes it really hard for somebody to want to do it the right way. We still have to pay taxes, and that now gets reported over to Border Patrol agents. All of that information is now going to the government, to the agents that are in charge of deportation. So as an illegal immigrant, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. When given the opportunity to just work and show up every day, we can make a place that was nothing into something so beautiful.
It's by being an inclusive society that wants to help people no matter their gender, no matter their race, no matter their country of origin, so that we can look to be able to make sure that our kids or our friends' kids could have a better world. Hey, what's going on, friends? Welcome back to another episode of the Love Local Chicagoland podcast, where we try to bring truth into our local communities through real stories of real people that are doing life here locally. You see that we think that perception is each one of us has, depending on the stories and the worldviews that we have. But sometimes our perceptions are limited, and we only see what we see. So we think stories could help broaden that perception so that we could learn and grow as humans. We think that's important, and we know that none of us know everything. So to be able to learn another story, to be able to learn another perception, so that we could stand above it and get a broader perspective to help us do life better and be better humans, we think that's important. Today, my friends, we have Josue Maciel here on the show. He's a Mexican-American that came here at 1.5 years old and with his parents, and didn't get to become a legal citizen until he was after high school. So you do the math on that, and we're going to get his perception, his story. And to me, I think this is really important. I think I hope you stay and listen no matter what your views are, so that we can learn and grow. And I think there's this mainstream media view of what's happening in our world, and then there's the truth of what's happening in our world. I think we're here to be able to bring the truth to light. Josue, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jason.
Super excited to be having this conversation. Me and you hit it off right away. I think we saw each other around the business community, and I saw you at a Coffee and Contacts, and we're like, dude, it's about time we connect.
About time, yeah.
We met at Rep's place. We had a beer and in Rolling Meadows, and we hit it off right away. I think it's if I had to describe our conversation, it was very heart-led, and we just showed up as our authentic selves.
Absolutely.
And through that, it was about 5 minutes in the conversation, I'm like, well, in one way or another, I'm going to interview this man. And then getting to go through that process and to understand your heart, I've just been really inspired by you, man. And I think you are doing really great things in the community. I think you lead with compassion. You have a heart, and you want to be able to bring truth to light for your family, for other Mexican Americans, to be able to help paint a picture of what it's really like, what it could feel like to be a Mexican American in the United States right now, where it seems like, there's just a bunch of noise out there, and not all of it's true. Yeah. So to be able to come down to a human-to-human story and to be able to get this message out there brings me great joy, and I just appreciate you taking this walk with me to be able to share with our community.
I love it. Yeah, here for it.
Yeah, for sure, man. So first question I really ask everybody with these story type podcasts is, what's on your heart right now to share with our community?
Yeah, I mean, just the burning sensation of making sure that we speak, like you mentioned, the truth of everything that's going on, and how, Latinos as a whole, not just Mexican Americans, are, just being targeted just because of the way they look and the way it makes us feel, and, the way things probably should be instead of how they are today.
Yeah, man. It's this isn't going to be a small talk, but it's going to be a real talk.
Yeah.
And to me, this is courageous of you, man. And you're taking a step out to be able to help paint a picture for people that maybe have just been seeing one worldview, or maybe they're just taking what the headlines are and taking that as the truth. What I've learned from the headlines, or what I've learned from the algorithms, is some truth in it. Sometimes there's not at all. And it's more to spark rage. It's more to spark emotion. It's more to be able to spin us into many different directions. And you know what? We're all human and we come from different lives. I know my family 3 generations ago were immigrants and came here, and they came here for a better life. Yeah. And what I learned from talking to you is that's the same reason why your family came here. That's the same reason why other Mexican Americans or other immigrants from other countries come here, because America has been one amazing place to be able to grow and to be able to prosper. And many other countries that are out there aren't as good. And we've been really fortunate and blessed in this country. So more people want a part of it. And to me, sometimes people want to like, oh, it's the law and this type of thing. I think what we're going to break down today is that like, well, if the law is broken, if the law isn't right, well, then is it really right to do what we're doing right now? And I think that's up to each person in their hearts to be able to determine, but to be able to have this conversation with you is really why we're building the Love Local Chicagoland platform. It's a big reason why we're building Love Local Media Agency, because we think the 6 degrees of separation in the community could help us connect, could help us learn, could help us grow. And my hope, especially with conversations, could help us heal, because the mainstream media and other outlets that are out there are not always spreading truthful information. They're only sharing it from their perception. Exactly. And I'm going to be honest with you, there's a lot more than just one perception that are out there. So I really want us to be able to look at this as like, let's look at the whole truth, and let's look at like, what other questions do I have? What could I learn from this that I could take away? For you, if someone only knows immigration through the headlines, what's one thing you want them to hold on and make sure that they listen to this show? Yeah,
I would say if you could have a better job and you just had to move to give your family a better life, wouldn't you do that? Wouldn't you give everything up in order to leave future generations that are your offsprings, in a better situation? Because that's essentially what an immigrant does. Leaves everything behind, the whole world they grew up in, their entire family, just to give future members of their family a better situation for themselves, right? So yeah. I think that's where we could start off.
We all want to be able to make sure we leave this place better than we found it. I haven't met anybody with multiple different worldviews, different beliefs, people I agree with, people that I don't. I think we could come into the common conclusion that we want our kids or our family, if we don't have kids, and to be able to be better than we were. Absolutely. And sometimes there's different moves that we could be able to do that. And to me, it's important for us all to know is like, if we all just work together and we understood one another's story, we could kind of stop this BS and this mess and all this noise, and we could actually start getting to work to make our country a better place to be able to live. But as long as we're continuing to live in this noisy world where the headlines and the extremism and the polarization that's out there that's pointing fingers is there, we're never going to be a good society. And what was once a great America will be no more. And so this show to me today is going to be fire. It's the reason I built it, and I appreciate you being courageous to have this conversation with me.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Let's go back to your origin story. You came here at 1.5 years old. Where were you the first in your family? Where were you the first 1.5 years of your life?
Yeah, I was born in a city called León, Guanajuato. It's in the central part of Mexico. It's actually the 4th biggest city in Mexico, but that's where my family is today. Most of them are there right now. Right, and that's where I was born, and my mom made the courageous decision of leaving her 15 siblings behind, her parents behind, and come to this country with nothing but the clothes on her back to try to succeed.
Mm-hmm. She wanted to make a better life for her kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's to me. I think that's a human trait. If you have kids, you want them to have a better life than you, right? And that's kind of the goal. Like each generation gets a little bit better. Yeah. Right. And that doesn't matter. Your nationality doesn't matter. Your skin color. That is a human trait that is real. We want our kids to have a better life than us.
Oh yeah.
So you came here at 1.5 years old. Like, what do you remember growing up? Obviously, 1.5 is super young, but like, what are some of your earliest memories?
Yeah, I mean, some of my earliest memories is luckily having a lot of support, not just from family members that were already here, but from other people that had migrated beforehand, right? And seeing a single mother come out here and give everything up to try to work, to not only give me a better place, but just have a better place, to be around, right? And I grew up in a lot of my cousin's house, a lot of my aunt's house, my mom's coworkers' houses. I don't think we stayed stable in one single place until I actually purchased a home in 2021, right? I think I was in 10 different homes before I was like 7, right? So it was always moving around and trying to upgrade, but also needing support from a lot of different people.
It takes a village.
Oh, yeah.
And especially if you're coming here from another country, there's so much to be able to learn and to be able to go through. And I kind of come back to the question of like, well, okay, we were talking about America and has been at least a great place to be able to come and to be able to grow it. And that's important. But like, talk to me about like what your mom was coming from. You were obviously 1.5 years old, but what was the town that you grew up in Mexico?
Yeah.
What was that coming from, and why did that spark that fire for her to come here and to scrape to get by, to live with whoever she had to live with, to make sure that you could sit here now as a business professional and have this wonderful, this beautiful life?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mexico, as far as Latino countries go, is pretty prosperous, but within Mexico, there is still, even to this day, a stigma. If you hit a certain age, you're no longer viable to the workplace, right? And the laws that protect Mexican citizens to work, and not be discriminated by age are not the same as they are here. So it happens fairly regularly. And as a single mother that she was, having to come here or choosing to come here and work in factories instead of, at the law firm that she was at in Mexico was a longer play, right? And even though she had a stable job and she was okay where she was at, she knew that my life wouldn't be better if we stayed behind. It would have just been more of the same, right? So hence why she made the decision to move up here.
Yeah, that's pretty courageous of your mom, and it's also inspiring. It's you drop what is comfortable for you to be able to go into an uncomfortable situation so that your kids can have a better life. Like, if that's not a definition of a strong, wonderful mom, what is at the end of the day? You came here, you talked about living in houses, 7 different, or you said 10 different houses?
10 different.
10 different houses. So that's got to be a lot as a kid, I would think. But when did you first realize that, like, your status, you didn't get legal citizenship till you're after high school. When did you first realize that your status is going to shape your daily life?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2012. So as everybody that's grown up in this country knows, that there is always a census done, right, every 10 years. So in 2000, I had to take this census paper home and fill it out and have my mom sign off on it. And she was terrified. She was terrified because she didn't want the U.S. government to know that she lived at a specific address, for the fear of, being deported and sent back home. So after that moment, she actually started training me on what to do if a Border Patrol agent were to show up at our house, whether to show up at the house, at school, if one day she just doesn't come home because they showed up at her work. And that's when I knew that there was something different about my experience versus the experience of other classmates that I was growing up with some of my cousins that I grew up with, because none of them were being trained to do the same thing, at least not all of them, right? And I knew that there was a different status, to our existence in this country versus others.
Yeah, I would think that's got to be a lot to carry as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about the feelings and the emotions you had to work through, and you're learning that you are different than some of your peers and some of your family members.
I have the perfect story for you. It's my mom's favorite story to tell. She actually told it at my wedding, and we call it the UPS story. right? We used to live in an apartment that was the second floor of a house out in Elgin, and the owner of the home who rented the second floor to us, she loved to leave her front door open for some reason. And we're having dinner with one of my cousins came over, and everything's fine. We hear knocking on the door. We were expecting more guests, so my mom asked me to go down and open the door for him. I start walking down the stairs, and the UPS guy comes in. And this is around the same time that I just started my training, right? And he goes, UPS, and leaves the package. I storm upstairs.
Wow.
And I'm like, Mom, UPS is here. We got to hide. And because we were, this house was built in the early 1900s, there was like a little cellar that was really the attic, right? And I just went in there. I was like, Mom, come on, we got to go. And I didn't even think about my cousins because they were born here, right? So they had everything they needed to be fine. But I knew me and my mom weren't okay. And I just stormed in there, and she's like, what do you mean? And the guy was like, is everything okay? Like, he was just a UPS guy. He didn't mean to frighten, a 9-year-old kid, right? Or a 5-year-old kid that, he just did. But that's really because I had this weight on my shoulders of always having to look over my back.
And that makes me sad, man, and that you had to go through that.
Yeah.
And because it's like a 9-year-old kid should not have to carry that weight or to have that fear.
Right.
And it's your mom was trying to do the best she can.
Yeah.
And she was trying to give you a better life. And in turn, you had to carry that burden along with her from a very young age, which is super heavy and a lot to process at that age. Where you're probably, to me, I would think you're not even able to completely process probably until later in life. Would I be accurate there? Yeah.
I'm 30 years old, and it's hard to process what's going on now.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine being a 9-year-old kid today, right? Let alone, it was hard for me then. There's nobody chasing after us like there is today. Yeah,
which is something we'll dive into later. That piece there, I was talking to some local food pantries recently, and in areas that have a high Latino culture, and they were talking about. I was like, how is the need? Is it crazy? And they're like, no, it's actually nobody's showing up.
Yeah,
because their fear of ICE coming in to be able to do what ICE does.
Right.
And I'm also, me, I'm connected in a lot of different areas. And I hear a story of a church that has a garden. And all of a sudden, vegetables are being taken from that garden. And there's a school that's really close that there's a high Latino culture. And the conversation within this church is like, well, what's happening? And at first, they're kind of like skeptical, and then like putting the dots together, they're realizing that people are just trying to survive and just be able to eat. And they're like, they could take all the fruit they want, they could take all the tomatoes that they want, and seeing it through cameras and stuff like that has also confirmed that. But I can't imagine that, and I struggle as sitting here as a white man thinking that like, why is this okay? Like, we shouldn't be looking at the color of our skin. We should be looking at the character of the human beings that are here. And we should never want to be put in a place where we're making 9-year-old kids feel less than, or to go run up into an attic. Or we should never be put into a place where like people don't know where their food are coming from. They can't even go to a food pantry. That's ridiculous, and like shame on us as Americans if that's the case. And my hope is that people do more work to really understand the stories, because I think what we could really agree on here is that like the law has been broken, the system has been broken for some time. From understanding history, from doing my research, I'm going to sit here very confidently and say that when a country gets to 250 years old, they usually fall. And there's a rising power that is coming up with that, which I think we could look out into our world right now and we could see those rising powers that are there. Right. And then we could also have there's pretty much there's a rising power and there's a falling. That what was a rising power is now falling. When that happens, there is internal conflict, and they push divide into the country. Usually, there is a populist movement that comes into play. So there's internal conflict, which we see in all different areas right now, especially with them and how they're using social media. But then you have this external conflict that is going to continue to happen for us, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better without trying to scare people. That's just kind of what the cycle of history will show us could happen. Hopefully not. Hopefully we could rebound. Hopefully we could come together as people who live in this country and look to be able to build systems to do things the right way. But if the law has been broken, if the system's been broken, and we can't treat people like that. We can't treat other humans where their kids, I think of a mom dropping their kid off at school. And imagine that fear that she has that she might be taken away. And where does her kid go? Can you imagine that?
Well, I kind of lived through it.
You lived through it, but as me, this is humbling me because I couldn't. And before, and I still I could kind of put myself there, and it hurts, and it's heavy. But I have no idea what that. To me, it feels like that. I could have no idea what that would truly feel like, but how scary that would be.
Yeah.
Because now it's to me we're pretty in this place of we talked in our conversation about you feel hunted.
Yeah.
And the mainstream media and the headlines are putting that at the forefront of everybody that's here legally is an evil criminal. It's that's bullshit.
Right.
Because not everybody is evil, and there's evil in everything. There is evil in I was talking to the Schaumburg Police Department the other day with a show we were doing, and to me that's the same thing. The police could get a bad rap because of the social media, but these police officers are some most amazing humans that I have met. Some of my best friends are police officers that are the most selfless, giving people that I have ever met. But the mainstream media tears it up. It's the same thing with what's happening right now with Mexican Americans and with immigration. And that is when the system is broken, we can't point to the law. We need to focus in on the system and make sure that we take care of humanity.
Right.
And that's what's going to look good as we look back on this history. The ones that are fighting, that are hateful, there needs to be a heart check. And I hope, and I say that with all the grace and the love in the world, but we need to do that work. And because as Americans, it can be the greatest country in the world, and it could continue to be the greatest country in the world. But if we don't come from a place of humanity, we're not going to get very far. And history shows us that anything that is upward trending will be very short-lived, and the long term is more dark than we've ever imagined.
Right.
So to me, obviously on a soapbox here, I want to come back to you. What did the legalization journey really look like for your family? Obviously, you're a kid. You don't know all the specifics, but from your perception and from hearing stories from your mom.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I've lived through it even as an adult with friends and family that have gone through the process. And imagine somebody, going through your life through a microscope at every point and turn, right? And looking through every single aspect of your life. My mom, when we came to this country, wasn't married. She got married once we were here to my stepdad, and she had to take a DNA test to make sure that man wasn't her family biologically.
Oh, wow.
Just because they didn't want her giving away citizenship to somebody that shouldn't be getting it, right? And that's really how it is today. When somebody marries an immigrant that's not here on a legal status that's eligible, their life gets torn inside out. They go through social medias, they go through their phones, they go through everything just to make sure that they're in love, right? And it's a process where you feel completely vulnerable, but you put yourself in that situation because what everybody wants that moves here is to be in a status that's okay with the local government, right? None of us come here wanting to break any laws, so you put yourself in an extremely vulnerable state and, just hope for the best. Hope that you don't get kicked out for doing things the right way, So it is excruciating and humiliating at times, but it's something that's necessary. And, at the same time, it's also expensive. When we were able to be blessed with the right to be in this country with a legal status, my mom paid around $5,200 per person, right? So for my stepdad, for herself, and then for me, it was a little over 15 grand that she had to pay. And you're talking 13 years ago. The prices have gone up.
It's probably double now,
if not more. We see,
well, especially now. But yeah,
we see what's going on currently. With these 1HB visas. It's ridiculous.
It's heartbreaking.
What's going on, and honestly, it's scary because you see something like that. That visa that's actually for huge benefit for this country, right? A lot of the PhD candidates, I believe I read the other day, it's over 45% of PhD candidates are here on that visa, right? And then they stay because they are so good at what they do that, they get, the right to stay at this country and work at this country and use their amazing brain to make this a better place. But you take those visas away due to a cost, those people don't come here, and those brains don't get developed at some of the best schools in the world.
Can you,
right?
Yeah, can you explain for our audience that don't know what that visa means? Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, so the and I'm no lawyer, right? But the visa essentially allows a company to sponsor a individual to come to this country to study and or work here, right? So these visas allow individuals from other countries to come in, and a lot of people under that visa study here at the U.S., right? And like I mentioned, these are people getting their doctorates. These are people that are extremely intelligent and are only just going to make our society better, and they're now ineligible to do so. And that's why you start seeing Silicon Valleys in India and China, because they can't come over here anymore. So what are people doing? Investors are doing? Well, they're just recreating San Francisco and other places. And that's not good for our economy as a country. It's not good for those individuals because they don't get to get out of the situation that they're in. They're just being asked to work in their country of origin, right? And it's not good overall and long term for any U.S. Anybody with interest in the U.S., right? So.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I appreciate you sharing. I would think we would want the smartest of the smartest here, right? The people that want to put in the work, the people that want to grow. I would think we want them here to be able to make a flourishing America.
Right.
In order to create a flourishing America, in my opinion, it's going to come from diverse views. It's going to be, we're a melting pot.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, it's my land. I'm like, are you Cherokee? Are you an Indian? Because I'm pretty sure the knowledge I know is the white man was not originally the person that owns this. Then it came over here, and you saw a genocide with the Indian culture and the indigenous people. There's something to that us as Americans need a gut check.
Yeah.
And we got to really see, is this what's right for humanity? The Earth is 4 billion years old. We're here for 80 of it, and this is the stuff that we're dealing with and working with instead of just being good humans with people that come from different walks of life, and to put systems and policies in place that make sense, that build win-wins. And to me, that's what I don't see right now. I don't see the win-wins. I see it very much power. I see it very much control. Without seeing the humanity side of things, and that really makes me sad. Not just as a man that grew up in this country, but as a Christian, as a person that thinks that it's about the character of a human being. It's not about the color of their skin or where they came from. If they're a good human and if they want to do good work and if they want to bring value to our society, and they want to do it the right way, and we give them a good system. That's where we failed as Americans.
Right.
We have not given them a good system. We could all win together, but instead we're going after humanity. And I think when that time happens, to me, it's a broken heart. That comes from that, and to me, I think America needs a heart check.
Yeah.
and I hope that we could learn from this, and we could go through this darkness to be able to get to the light, so that we can be able to put the right policies in place, to be able to put the right rules in place, to make it a lot easier for people to be, if they want to come here, if they want to build here, if they want to grow here, we should let them in. And just like if you wanted to go somewhere else, you should have every right to be able to do that if that's right for you and your family. But like, let's come with a helping hand. Right. And that's what makes me sad right now, is because you're seeing a lot of Americans not coming from a helping hand. They're pointing a finger without knowing the whole story.
Exactly.
We kind of went on this, but where do you, from your side of it, where do you see the system breaking down for good people?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think making it so difficult to want to do things the right way, I think is where it's rough, right? Because I'll just speak from personal experience. You know, when we moved to this country, my mom made sure she filed her taxes, make sure she did absolutely. She
paid taxes as an illegal immigrant. She paid taxes and helped drive revenue to our government.
Absolutely. And that's, you know, one of those common misconceptions that illegal immigrants don't pay taxes, right? But we actually do. I think if you look at the statistics, if you take the Latino community inside of the U.S. and make it its own GDP, we would be the 5th highest GDP in the world, right?
So when you're gone, we're fucked. Is that what I hear you saying? That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, right? That's more money than the UK, than India, and I think it's China as well, right? Like it's a huge chunk of money that, you know, even. Let's just pretend that they don't pay income tax. Let's just pretend they do, but let's just pretend that they don't, right? All the money that gets moved around through the Latino population and services and goods that we all need to survive, if you take all of that out, you know, the wage gap is just going to get even bigger, right? And the economy of the country would crumble, right? And you would feel that impact at no matter what level you are, no matter the color of your skin, whether your family's been here for generations or they just moved here, right? You would definitely feel that impact. And, you know, to kind of get back to the original point is, you know, the system makes it really hard for somebody to want to do it the right way. And what I mean by that is we still have to pay taxes, and that now gets reported over to Border Patrol agents, right? So when somebody goes and files their taxes in February, March, and April, all of that information is now going to the government, to the agents that are in charge of deportation. So as an illegal immigrant, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You want to do the right thing. You want to pay taxes, right? Because it's the only way that you might one day get citizenship is by showing that you're a model citizen. But if you do so, now you painted a target on your back, right? So it's one of those, like, if I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't, right? So it's a scary situation where no matter what you do, it almost leads to an immediate place where you're no longer in this country, right? And that's not the point.
Yeah, that's adds to the burden and the lack of humanity. And what that will do to our economy if this continues to happen isn't going to lead to abundance.
Right.
We might think it will, but if I'm going to connect to the dots to the past.
Yeah.
We see short-term growth and short-term upward movement, but long-term, we're not in a good place, America, and we're not gonna be this thriving country that we once were. Unfortunately, especially the way that we're doing, because karma's a mofo.
Right.
If you could fix one part of this process tomorrow, what would it be?
Yeah, tough question. If I could fix one part,
Pick a couple if you need to.
I think the for one thing that's been proposed, not just to current administration and probably for the last 10 administrations, I believe, maybe 5 administrations actually. The last 5 administrations have been offered a path to amnesty, and it's something that the U.S. used to do with Mexico and other Latin countries for years before the 2000s, right? And it gave the opportunity that everybody that came here, and not through traditional methods and came here, hopped that border illegally, but showed that they were a model citizen, showed that they didn't have a criminal record, that they paid their taxes, the status to just automatically go from an illegal immigrant to at least having work capabilities, right? And I think if you were to make a poll, and I could tell you that in my inner circle, no one, we're more than comfortable not paying into Social Security and never seeing it again because we do it anyways. We're okay to, pay taxes and not have a right to vote. We just want to be here in a way that it's okay for everybody and that we have an equal opportunity to succeed as anybody else, right? And I think if we were to allow that to happen, you would see an outstanding amount of people that are just gracious to a broken system if you just turned one switch, right? Yeah. And not even the whole way, just half a knot, right? And I think that's what I would suggest if I got paid the big bucks to make those suggestions. I'd say, hey, it worked so well for so many years. Why don't we go back to what was working well before things were not working well now, right? And do something like that.
Yeah, there's ways to streamline the system,
absolutely,
to improve the system, and also keep it as an efficient system, especially with the tools we have now with blockchain, with artificial intelligence. Those tools could help us build a better system than we've ever built before to make sure that we're doing it right for humans, but we're also keeping and stewarding our country in the right way too. But that is going to have to come from a place of wanting to be able to build a win-win.
Right.
And unfortunately, that isn't always the case in cycles of history where people want to be able to build, or governments want to be able to build a win-win. That's a sad thing. As you sit here today with your life's experience, what does the American dream mean to you now?
The American dream to me now means what I think the founding fathers wanted it to be, is equal opportunity for all men and women, right? I don't want to be given anything. I just don't want resistance when I fight for it.
Yeah. Well said, brother. How do immigrant families make stronger neighborhoods and more connected neighborhoods?
Yeah. Chicago is a perfect example of it. And if you've spent any real time in Chicagoland, you know that Little Village, 26th Street, is an amazing place, and amazing food, amazing vendors all around. Unfortunately, a stomping ground nowadays for Border Patrol agents. But before the current system was administration was put in place, and you look at the statistics, Little Village, 26th Street, has been the second highest generating street of vendors in all of Chicago, right? The only thing that beats it is the Magnificent Mile, which is Michigan Avenue, right? And you see that when given the opportunity to just work, we can make beautiful things. And the last time a statistic was ran was in 2015. They were grossing $900 million worth of revenue in Little Village, right? And that's just money that just flows through our economy. That, you go pay for a taco, on 26th Street, there's taxes collected on that, right? You want to go buy a shirt from a local shop down there, there's taxes being paid. And that goes directly back into to the best part of our system, right? That, what I think really makes our country great. And, it's a perfect example of when given the opportunity to just work and show up every day, we can make a place that was nothing into something so beautiful like it is Little Village today.
Yeah, appreciate you sharing. And you said tacos. Now I'm hungry.
Always hungry for some tacos.
Yeah, right. Amen to that. This might be a part of this. So if there's any redundancy, please, that's okay. But what's an example or examples of contribution that people should really take notice that they might not see or that maybe you haven't mentioned thus far?
Yeah, one of the things that I would say just grinds my gears, right, to quote Peter Griffin, is that, and I'm just going to speak for Mexicans since that is where I'm from, that all we want to do is take. If you look at previous natural disasters across the entire United States, Mexico, the country, has always sent its National Guard and its own resources to help. When there was the fires that were not being controlled in California, we sent resources, we sent people to come and help the United States. When Katrina happened, we were all over it, right? And it's always been this thing where, all we want to do is take. Mm-hmm. And that's not true. We just want to be part of the same world because we're neighbors. At the end of the day, we're neighbors. And if you profit, I profit. Mm-hmm. And that's our mentality as people. And I think the misconception has always been all they want to do is just take from us. And I hardly have ever come across a situation like that. And Mexico has helped the U.S. in more ways than I think is written in the history books on this side of the border. And most likely will stay that way. But it's something that I wish got more light from mainstream media on how much Mexico's always been willing to help.
To me, I think of, and there's bad in every culture. I don't care who you are or what it is. There's just like there's bad in every workplace or type of work, whether attorney or media company guys, HR guys, whatever that is. There's bad, right? But to me, my perception on Mexican Americans from a lot of my building businesses and the groundwork started working in restaurants and running and operating restaurants. And what I can tell you is that y'all are some of the hardest working people that I've ever met, but it comes from this genuine place of like love and wanting to do better and to want to be a part, just what you're saying, be a part of something. Mm-hmm. And it's something to me that I think we need to look at more of a wider perspective as Americans. And we could look at like, well, how can we all win together?
Yeah.
That and we all have our skill sets. 3 or 4 generations ago, my family was from Czechoslovakia at that time. We came here, and all my family wanted to do was to build a better life. At the time, they became bricklayers, and that was the big part of their jobs. I'm sure there was other ones now, but the service industry to me is. It is the new bricklaying in some cases, but it's the hearts that I've seen, the people that I have met, that I know that are impacted during this time that I do not have in contact anymore, but I pray for regularly because it's when you get to know people and that are different than you or may look different from you or from a different country, then you get to know their heart. You realize that many of them are just the same as you. In some cases, maybe even better than you, and maybe you have some of the work to be able to do. So I hope through this dark time that we're going through, I hope there could be some light at the end where we come to the table and we look to be able to look like, how can we all work together to be able to make this a thriving country? Right. Because, just so you said, like you all want to be a part of it too. And this isn't our country. To say that it's our country is just ridiculous. Like what's ours? Like we literally came over on boats and we took this away from indigenous people. Right. And there's genocides that happened during that time. And that's just really sad. And now we think it's our country. Like, go look in the mirror. Because if we think that's our country, when we came over here like that, we're just in a different time frame. We're missing a big part of life, in my opinion, that is really going to hurt our society unless we do a heart check as Americans, because we were once an immigrant too, or our family was. Just because it's not falling in our generation, it could, So let's move on. There's a tension obviously out there now. We talked about the mainstream media. We talked about ICE. We talked about what's right now in Chicago. This is going to go out a week or two later than when we're recording it. But there's ICE in heavy drones and border patrol throughout the city of Chicago. For you, in your perception, what does daily life feel like for the people that are living in fear or being hunted, in your words?
Yeah, I mean, it's just imagine all you want to do is be alive and someone telling you no. That's it's a consistent reminder that we are supposed to be, from their perspective, less than, right? And want to be shrunken down to this size, that if you're not here to do extremely hard labor, we don't want you into this country, right? And if you want to be one of us and shop down Magnificent Mile, that's not okay. You can't be in the same area as us, right? And it is frustrating for people for us that have to go through it. Like I've already mentioned, I'm here in a status that it's okay, but I still carry 2 federal IDs with me and a local government ID on me at all times, right? I have them in my pocket right now because I never know when someone's going to walk through that door and make me justify why it's okay for me to be breathing the same air as you, right? And it's just frustrating. It's annoying, but it's also super scary, right? But we, like you mentioned, we just put our faith that, things will be better. It gets darkest before, it gets better.
Yeah, to get to the light, you got to go through the darkness. There's no other way to do that. Now the world's becoming really transparent. We see what's happening. So we need to go through that darkness to get to the light, but it doesn't mean it's easy.
Right.
But I think, to me, we talk about similar faith practices. Right. Faith, and if we could talk through Christianity, like through the Bible, it talks about many struggles of people overcoming and getting through stuff, and God staying with them even in the tough times. And that's kind of a part of the human design. Like it's a repeat of past. There's nothing new under the sun. There's a repeat. It just might look differently. I think for me, my hope is that we could go through the darkness and we could get to the light, and we could have a rebirth like we've never felt or seen before for people in our generation, where we could come together and really thrive using humanity, building win-wins, connecting at the forefront, putting in good policies that help us win, that help us succeed, and so that we could truly leave this world better than we found it. We don't have tons more time on Earth in retrospect, right? We're middle-aged men. You're younger than me, so I'm more middle-aged than you. But that's the realness of it. But now that we know all this, now that we have all these tools around us, now that we know that it's really good when we focus in and we uplift on humanity, what could we create and what could we build? And I hope we could get through this so that we could do that rebuild and that we can make this country better than it's ever been by building win-wins, by being an inclusive society that wants to help people no matter their gender, no matter their race, no matter their country of origin, so that we can look to be able to make sure that our kids or our friends' kids could have a better world than what we're having to go through right now.
Absolutely.
We went into faith a little bit there, but how has faith helped you and your family through tough times?
Yeah, absolutely. Christianity has been a big part of my life as well. And it's what I lean on when things get hard, right? And I think as people, the Latino people have always relied heavily on faith, right? Most Latin countries are into Catholicism a lot, and we lean on our faith as much as possible. And when I've leaned on my faith as a Christian, I always use the good old phrase, right? What would Jesus do, right? And when he was being nailed to the cross, all he asked was for their forgiveness, not his. And that's how I've tried to approach these days. It's forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing to themselves. And, they don't understand the repercussions that could come from treating people this way, right?
Yeah, brother. Yeah. There's a lot with our faith, and that's also another thing that's being divided within our country, unfortunately. I agree 100% with what you're saying, and to be able to live like Jesus and to live in a loving, forgiving manner, even in the storm, brings abundance to life, even when it's really hard, because there's this groundedness that comes with it, that you're at peace because that this is just a short stop, and that your Creator has you here for whatever purpose that is. And that to me is beautiful. I could also say, as a Christian man, it's in learning the principles of Jesus, learning and understanding the Bible, getting people that are much smarter than me to be able to help learn and understand it. I truly have become a better human being because of it. And I am a hot mess of a human being, like many of us are. But there's a lot of people coming into our faith right now for different reasons, or coming back to our faith for different reasons. And that inspires me, but it also, what I want to challenge people on is to do the research themselves, to start with the Gospels. Don't take your pastor's word for anything, because there's a lot of false leaders and false prophets out there, and the Bible talks about those people. If people are talking about love, if they're talking about forgiveness, yes, you follow the law, not necessarily the law of a broken system, but the law of the book. That's important to be able to do. But grace and love and forgiveness and mercy and justice are at the core of what Jesus stood for.
Absolutely.
Let's be clear. Jesus stood up to hypocrisy. He called people out. He was a flat out a renegade, flat out an outlaw that showed and stood up to a very oppressive system. To me, that's something that us as men should strive to be able to be. Absolutely. Because that is not easy to be able to do, and that is also scary. But to know that we have our Savior with us as we go through those things, and you're talking about that within your culture, it gives a level of peace.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. I'm really happy. I see a lot of stats that are like people are coming back to their faith that have different views than me and probably than you, right? I think that's great. But I challenge them to do the work themselves and don't take anybody's word for it, because in Christianity, there is a healing that could take place if we allow it.
Right.
But we have to do that internal work, and it starts with love. Love your neighbor, love yourself, and love Jesus.
Yeah.
And if you could do those things, you're going to have a good life in any storm. But if there's hate in the middle of it, and they're trying to use Christianity at the top of it, you're going to have to ask yourself if that's real.
Right.
And I can't answer that for anybody, but what I challenge them to do is to open up the book.
Yeah.
And to start reading, to get into Bible study, to talk to people that have different views, and to really not judge, but to do the interpretation themselves. Because what Christianity has done to me, it's made me check my heart. And I am a sinful man just like we all are.
Right.
And it has made me look at my heart and want to be a better human being because the way Jesus lived. And I'm going to remind everybody, he stood up to the oppressor.
Absolutely.
And he called their hypocrisy out for the sake of the people.
Yeah.
He was a renegade. and he was a rebel. And to me, we need more people that are willing to be able to stand up and to live like Jesus would in this time in history, to stand up for what's right. So I appreciate you sharing your faith and sharing all this. None of this is an easy conversation, and but at the same time, I hope people we could learn from this, and that we could grow from this, because this is a real story from you. A few more questions, and then we'll get ready to wrap up. So overall, give us right now. You're in your 30s. Like I said, younger than me. Where are you at in life right now? What have you built, and where are you at?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm married to my beautiful wife Sandra. We just hit our 8 years anniversary. Really looking forward for the future that we're building together. And no kids as of yet, but we got a beautiful dog that loves to destroy my house. And one of the best things I think I've been able to accomplish in my life has been the work that I've been able to do within my community in Elgin, with the youth group at the church that I attend to.
Beautiful.
Right? We have given them a space where it's okay to be themselves. It's okay to talk to us. Give them an extra avenue. I'm not a parent, and nor will I pretend to know what it means to be a parent. But I know when I was growing up, it was always difficult to come to my mom and express myself, especially as a Latino. That's not always an easy thing to do. And we have tried to do the best we can to give them an avenue where they could come to us for advice. They could come to us when they're struggling. And like I've mentioned before, all we want to do is leave future generations in a better spot, a little bit more healed by the time they get to 30, right? Mm-hmm. A little bit more conscious of what's going on in the world before they go out into the workplace, to college, etc. And through that organization, we've been able to give back, not just in the community here in the Illinois area and the Chicagoland area, but we've also been able to help orphanages in Mexico and orphanages in the States, and just give back as much as we possibly can. And if I were to go today, that's the thing I'm the most proud of.
That's beautiful, brother. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're serving and you're helping kids that maybe were like you growing up.
Yeah.
Would that be a true statement?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it's about.
Absolutely.
Is taking your struggles and your life lessons and that you work through them, but now you're going with a helping hand.
Right.
To be able to help lift up. To me, that's what makes the world go round. And if we all took the thing that we struggled with in life and went back with a helping hand, how could we help uplift each other? Exactly. And how could we... You're putting your money where your mouth is by helping the kids and making sure that the kids could get it better than you did, and hopefully they do the same thing for that next generation too. I'm going to be before we close, I'm going to do a little bit of a lightning round real quick, and it's going to be myth versus reality. So with this, I think it's important that there's a lot of myths out there when it comes around immigration right now, and it comes around the Latino culture. And let's see if we could just go. So Let's go quick. Myth: immigrants take more than they give. What's the reality?
It's a myth. Yeah, absolutely.
What's the reality of it?
That we don't want anything back besides the fruit of our own labor.
Yeah, amen. This is another myth that I hear out there. Most immigrants don't want to follow the rules. True or false?
False. Yeah. If there was rules that allowed us to be successful, then we would follow all those rules, right? But we don't follow one rule because we're here illegally, right? And now we're all criminals because of it.
Yeah, right. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. All right, myth versus reality. This is myth. It's us versus them for jobs. What would you say?
Absolutely not. This is one of those things that always makes me laugh. And there's a saying in Spanish, and I'll say it in Spanish and then I'll translate it. No quieren lo que tú tienes, sino no quieren que tú lo tengas. And translated, it means they don't want what you have, they just don't want you to have it, right? So most Americans don't want to work the fields. They don't want to be the cooks in the kitchens. they don't want to do any of that, right? Any of the more traditional jobs that Latinos have. They don't want to work in factories cutting lawns when it's 100 degrees out in humid Illinois, right? Or anywhere else in the country, right? They just don't want to see that those jobs provide us a house in the same neighborhood as them, right? They don't want to see us working 60, 70 hours compared to your 20, 30, 40 and be in the same neighborhood, right? We don't generally work the same jobs, right? There's very few situations, especially when you come and immigrate to this country, maybe 2, 3, 4 generations down, I get to work the same job as you, Jason, right? But when you first immigrate to this country, you take whatever you can do. My mother showed up with enough to be a paralegal in Mexico and had to come and work at a factory and then have to take a second job at Boston Market just to put food on the table, right? She wasn't out here applying at legal firms, right, trying to take jobs from other people that had earned their spot there. She just took whatever was available, and that's generally the consensus, I think, from people that migrate here.
Yeah, I mean, I think about, I mentioned it before, my family, I think it's 3 or 4 generations ago, but we came here, and many of my family was bricklayers,
Right.
and we did manual work,
Right.
because that's kind of what
That's
kind of
what
a
was
culture
available,
of what's available, and it's and you're happy with it,
Right.
and you grind it, and you build this successful life because you're trying to be a good human, you're frugal, you're trying to, just like we put throughout this conversation, you're trying to make a better generation for the next generation,
Exactly.
better life for the next generation. Last question, and then we'll close it up. Can faith and immigration stories really mix?
Yes, absolutely. I think if you take the time to read the Bible, there's hundreds of stories in there of people migrating back and forth. And for the most part, none of them were ever penalized for it, right? So if you look at, what Jesus did, and you look that he didn't just stay in Bethlehem, he didn't just stay in Jerusalem, he traveled and made every place he went to a better spot. And I think if immigrant or not, you take that same approach, that no matter where you go, you try to leave it better than where you found it. I think that's all, we're really, the real purpose as to why we're here, right, on this earth, is to just leave it better than what you found it. And, that shouldn't matter, based off the color of your skin or where you were born to where you are now, right? As long as that person is trying to be the best human being possible, I think we should absolutely let that happen.
Yeah, I agree with you, brother, very much. As we get ready to wrap up, what anything we haven't talked about that you want to share as a last, set of words to our audience?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if it were you, how would you feel if you were being judged by the color of your skin, right? I think if we put ourselves in that situation on a day in and day out scenario, I think we would approach this situation a lot differently, right? We would be more compassionate, and we would at least sit down and have a conversation, which I think was the purpose of today. Let's just sit down and have a conversation. Get to understand my story, right? Because if I could have done things differently to follow the rules, trust me, I would have, right? My mom would have, and everybody would have, right? And we would have done everything possible to do that. But when you're not given the opportunity to follow the rules, what else are you supposed to do? If it were your kid, in a third world country, and you have the opportunity to bring him here to have a better life, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you? I mean, all of us, all we want is to have a better life, right? No matter if you were born here or not. So if you give yourself that mentality and stop thinking, well, sucks to suck, you were not born here, so now you're not allowed to be here, and take that mentality away and just say, hey, this person just wants to leave the place I was born in a better spot. And just take that approach instead of nah, it's okay. They shouldn't be here regardless.
Imagine if we all thought like that, what we could build.
Yeah.
And the type of country that we could, and the type of world we could leave for our kids and for our grandkids.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Jason.
This was no small talk today.
Yeah.
Thank you for your courage. Thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for sharing your perception. Thank you for helping people see it maybe a different side that they haven't seen before.
Absolutely.
And my hope is that people get out of mainstream media and just start focusing on talking to people that might have different opinions or different views than them, so that we could really focus on getting back to the table of building win-wins.
Awesome.
None of us want to fight and have this hate in our world.
Right.
Maybe there's some, but that we got to quiet that, because there's more love in this world than not.
Absolutely.
But we just got to do that work. But I appreciate you.
Thanks, Jason.
My friends, we got some work to do as a country and as a society. The things that are happening on the mainstream media, I know some of you might not like this, and I'm going to have to sit with that and be okay with saying what I'm about to say. My friends, we got to look at the human side of things. And if the law has been broken, and yet we're doing the things that we're doing to other humans, what if it was you? What if this was a different generation and the tides were turned and this was your family? How would that make you feel? My friends, we are better and stronger together. You have heard me say that over and over. But when we point fingers because of where people are from, when we point fingers because of the color of people's skin, and we are making people fearful, and it's drop their kids off at school to not know if they're going to see their kid again. Can you carry that? Could you carry that? What if it was you? I pray that we could grow from this time in history. I pray that we could come to our faith, whether it's Christianity or another route, and see that there is a better way to be able to live. But it starts with love. And it starts with understanding that it's not about us. It's about us as a collective. And what we could do together is beautiful. But we're going to have to want to do that first. My friends, appreciate you all for listening. Support local. Love local. We're stronger together. Peace.